Hello, welcome to Economic Management and Policy Analysis class. And this is the ninth module. And we'll be talking about the contemporary issues in economic policy, And as such, in today's dynamic global economy, economic policy extends beyond traditional macroeconomics management. Policymakers must not must now integrate environment, technological, and social dimension to sustain growth, promote equity, and enhance resilience as to address issues. The contemporary issues that we'll be discussing are the climate change and green economy, the digital economy and fintech, um, the informal employment, the industrial policy and innovation, and the global shock. For the climate change, it's a critical global challenge impacting economic system and social structure and natural ecosystem, and it's primarily driven by uh, greenhouse gas accumulation from human activity. And looking at the scientific and environmental basis, we could see it's divided into greenhouse effects, such as gases that are being um, released, they trap heat, raising temperature, and also global warming is another scientific and environmental basis. Um, and for this, it's accelerated warming trends we observed over the past century. And also another is the extreme weather. And for this, increased frequency and intensity of flood, drought, and heat wave, which is actually one of the things that are actually happening. I mean, there are examples of things that we are actually experiencing globally now, and also the sea level rise, which talks about the melting ice and thermal expansion, contributes to rising sea level and ocean acidification. What are the economic impacts of this? Um, it has implication on the agricultural productivity, that is threat to crop yield and food security. Also, as per infrastructural vulnerability, there is high cost on transportation, housing, and energy system. Also, there is reduced workforce productivity due to health risk. And lastly, there is disruption to supply chain trade and investment. In mitigating um, climate change, there are policies that are being enacted. And when we talk about climate change policies, there are deliberate strategies that are brought into place to mitigate causes and adapt to impact, aiming to reduce the GHG emission, promote sustainable development, and enhance its resilience. And the type of climate change policy include the mitigation policy, which focus on reducing the GHG emission through renewable um, energy efficiency and low carbon transportation. And these include market-based instruments like carbon taxes. Another policy is the adaptation policy. And this talks about the increased resilience through flood defenses, drought resistance crop, and climate resistant infrastructure. And lastly, the early warning system. And for the last type, the cross-cutting policy, in a type of climate change policy, it integrates climate objective into broader economic, industrial, and social policy, such as green industry policy and urban planning for resilience. And the policy instruments include regulatory measures, economic incentive, market mechanism, and research support. Research support drives climate action. However, it has its challenge as per the high implementation costs, institutional fragmentation, social resistance, and insufficient monitoring hinders effectiveness. For the green economic policy, this is for sustainable growth. Green economic policy aims for low carbon, resource efficient, and socially inclusive development, ensuring environmental protection and green and economic prosperity are mutually reinforcing. And key principles include low carbon development, resource efficiency, sustainability, integration, and social inclusiveness. These um, principles are elaborated in the notes, and you can go through it. And um, we also have the digital economy and fintech regulation. The digital economy is driven by fintech, and it transforms commerce and finance through ICT, mobile platform, and data um, driven innovations. And in terms of digital economy, it deals with connectivity, like the seamless transaction via internet and mobile penetration. Also, it is that data-driven insight. It involves that data-driven insight, like analytics for targeted marketing and decision making. And also, it's a platform-based model, talking about the e-commerce and ride-sharing hub connecting users. However, it has regulatory challenges in terms of safeguarding against fraud and data breaches, also ensuring compliance with data protection regulation. Another is managing um, systemic risk from rapid digital adoption. Another challenge is the mitigating threats like hacking and digital fraud. And lastly, the cross-border, as per the cross-border transaction, a challenge of harmonizing regulation across jurisdiction. Another issue is the informality and employment generation. Informality and employment generation. And for this, the informal economy prevalent in um, developing economy encompasses unregulated, untaxed activity lacking social protection, and it's crucial for job creation, poverty reduction, and social equity. And key aspect in this area is job creation, that is absorbs labor not in the formal economy, reducing unemployment. Another aspect is the entrepreneurial opportunity, which provides low barrier entry for self-employment and micro enterprises. Also, another aspect is the income smoothing, and this means it offers flexible, immediate income during economic shock. And the last is the skill development, and this deals with workers acquiring practical skill transferable to the formal economy. What are the challenges that have been faced as per the informal economy? Uh, the first is low productivity, also tax revenue loss comes in, and then social protection gap also, and regulatory limitations. These are the challenges that are being faced as per the informal economy and the employment generation. Another aspect is the industrial policy and innovation. And for this, it talks about the um, industrial policy combined with innovation strategies that drive economic diversification, productivity, and global competitiveness. And as such, strategic government efforts to influence industrial structure. The industrial policy is actually a strategic government effort that is put in place to influence industrial structure, growth, and competitiveness through investment, infrastructure, and sectoral support. And the objective of industrial policy is to stimulate growth, enhance competitiveness, um, create employment, and encourage diversification. The types of industrial uh, policy are the sectoral industrial policy, the horizontal and the export-oriented policy. We have the role of innovation in such, which innovation is actually the creation, adoption, and diffusion of new products, processes to enhance productivity and competitiveness. And the role played to improve efficiency and product quality, and also to drive knowledge creation and innovative solutions. Also to foster startup and innovation hubs, and lastly, to ensure global market competitiveness. And these are the roles played by roles of innovation in terms of policy. The last aspect of the issue we'll be looking at is the global shock. And for this, these are unexpected events disrupting economic activity and social stability, requiring resilience, economic policy. Global shock includes the pandemic, the oil price volatility, the global and geopolitical risk. For pandemic, impact of this is supply chain disruption, demand shock, fiscal policy, and labor market effect. And the response to that is healthcare strengthening, social protection, and digital platforms. For the oil price volatility, the impact is microeconomics instability, investment uncertainty, and inflation. And a measure or a way to measure that is by strategic reserve, energy diversification, and price stabilization. And for geopolitical risk, it impacts the trade disruption, capital flight, energy security risk, and inflation. And the strategies that need to be put in place is the diversification of trade, strategic reserve, and diplomatic engagement. In conclusion, contemporary economic policy demands integrated, forward-looking approaches to address environmental, technological, and global forces. So climate change, we've looked at climate change and green economy. We've also looked at digital economy and fintech as an issue. We've looked at the informality and employment as an issue, the industrial policy and innovation also, and the global shock as an issue. So effective economic management relies on robust institutional framework, cross-sectional, sectorial integration, and proactive policy to build resilience, equity, and sustainable growth in an interconnected global environment. Thank you.